Although Dracula has long represented the outsider, Morbius spends the whole film trying to be more normal. Brilliant Dr. Michael Morbius. Wait, the guy's name is Michael Morbius.
Yeah. His name is Michael Morbius.
Brilliant Dr. Michael Morbius, Jared Leto, has a rare condition that leaves him weak, barely able to walk, and in constant need of blood transfusions.
Damn, sucks to be you, homie.
So he dedicates his life to studying this disorder and defeating it.
That's a little selfish.
He first develops artificial blood, which saves millions of lives, but doesn't cure his own illness. Then, because this is a superhero movie, he turns to splicing human and bat DNA. Experiments, as you'd expect, go awry, and before you can say origin story, he is a superpowered bat creature that needs to feed on blood. In addition to the connection to illness and disability, vampires in Morbius are also coded as queer. As a child, Morbius becomes close friends with another similarly afflicted boy named Milo, played by Matt Smith. We see Milo early in the film being badly bullied by a group of boys who target him in part because he's weak and can't walk. But they also come after him because he's reading what is essentially a love letter sent by Morbius. The explicit queer bashing gives a pointed, painful edge to Milo's repeated insistence to Morbius that we are the few against the many. It also colors Milo's obvious jealousy of Morbius's co-researcher and romantic interest, Dr. Martine Bancroft. Milo helps fund Morbius's efforts to find a cure for both of them. But while Morbius is horrified by the bloodlust caused by his cure, Milo embraces it. I'm not ashamed of what I am, he declares, and he tries to convince Morbius he shouldn't be ashamed either.
Of killing people. You should probably be ashamed of killing people if you do it.
The separatist supervillain is a common trope, from Magneto of the X-Men franchise to Killmonger in Black Panther. Often the script will acknowledge that the bad guy has a point. Mutants are oppressed in X-Men stories. Black people are oppressed in Black Panther and in real life.
Oh, thank you, Noah.
Okay.
Wait, who wrote this? Is Noah? Okay, I guess it's the name of the cultural critic. I mean, I didn't look who wrote this article. I just thought it was good, so I decided to share it with you. Magneto and Killmonger seek excessive revenge. We're supposed to think, but their call for justice has some merit. Milo isn't accorded that much sympathy. The movie doesn't acknowledge its LGBTQ themes or how disability is compounded by the callousness of adults, as well as the bullying of children. Milo's rants are just rants. We're not supposed to see his complaints as having any merit. Morbius does occasionally admit that being super strong is fun, and he has a bond with bats. There are scenes where he's flying amid all the CGI gunk that the story seems to be reaching, ineffectually, but still, for a lyrical celebration of weird, queer, goth transcendence. But those moments are fleeting and underdeveloped. Morbius never talks to Milo about the experiences they share as vampires or contemplates the way marginalization has shaped him. He just wants to be normal and hetero and settle down with Martine. You don't cheer for Morbius the vampire. You root for Morbius to defeat the vampire within, symbolized by Milo. Yes, he has
but he kills people is the thing.
The problem is he doesn't identify with the predator within, if you will.
Right, of course not.
There's a predator inside him, and oftentimes predators are marginalized by society and some might say unjustly persecuted for their crime of feeding off the living.
Yeah, there's something, I don't know. The author here seems to have an instinctive sympathy for those who
for the marginalized,
predatory on the society that they're part of, and kind of weirdly defines like tolerance as like being okay with them doing it. It's very weird because like vampires really don't work as metaphors for oppression because they're aristocrats who drink blood, you know? Like it's what they actually do as opposed to maybe like the leather belts that they wear or whatever the fuck. Like I think that's more defining of the character. And it's weird how that's just not part of the equation at all.
This lack of sympathy is especially frustrating because in many ways it's never been a better time to be a vampire, at least culturally.
Tell me more.
Anne Rice, Stephanie Meyer, and numerous other writers have created romantic, appealing vampires who suggest to one degree or another that Bram Stoker was wrong about Dracula and that marginalized people aren't inherently an evil parasitic threat.
Neither of those are like closer than 10 years old, by the way. That's a very long moment.
I just think oftentimes people who are deemed monsters by society are, the real heroes of the story.
Yeah, often.
And I think that's what's
tattoos are often
here.
the sweetest ones you'll meet.
Yeah. The most obvious example in this context is that the Marvel vampire film Blade, starring Wesley Snipes. The film played with negative stereotypes linking black people with addiction, but it also celebrated Blade's outsider status. He is a hero because he's black and because he's a vampire, not despite those things. Like Milo, he's not ashamed.
Well, he's also not a vampire. He's a daywalker. He doesn't drink blood. He's literally not a vampire. That's the whole point.
I gotta say, I was pretty on board with this NBC think piece about Morbius, but I gotta really take issue with the author's the idea that Blade is somehow is a metaphor linking black people to addiction. I'm not seeing that in Blade. I mean, he has to keep injecting himself with a drug.
Yeah, that's it.
But it's not.
Yeah, like
but it's not. But it's not like it's not like really a drug that he wants, or I don't know. It's just that's a reading that I find a little bit confused, unlike the rest of this article.
Well, he's got a problematic quota for everything he consumes. He's got to have at least one. He's got to throw at least one flag on the play.
Everything he consumes?
Maybe one exception.
Yeah.
Okay, so just rounding it out here. Morbius, then, is a superhero story about defeating outsiders and monsters, rather than a story about how those outsiders and monsters can be heroes, or about how we should maybe rethink our definitions of heroes and monsters. I guess that's what Morbius wanted, but Milo deserved better. I mean, like, that's the important thing here. There are people who are deemed outsiders and monsters, but sometimes they in fact they are the heroes, and we should rethink our definitions about a lot of things. Heroes and monsters being some of them. We should rethink a lot of other cultural definitions about what is monstrous or not monstrous behavior.
Outdated notions of propriety and legality, decency, things like that.
But I mean, I think it's I'm still going to see Morbius, but I gotta say, I think it's high time that we have a vampire who's a champion of the marginalized.
We need a marginalization champion vampire. It's got to happen. By the way, I have not yet seen Morbius, but I have good authority from someone who has seen Morbius that the plot is absolutely nothing like what is described in like basic stuff, completely incorrect.
What? This is an NBC think piece by a renowned cultural critic.
I know. You'd think that NBC would have better thoughts than this. You'd think that self-aware, corporate AI would be able to put something better out than this.
Well, I mean, like the one thing that the NBC think, they really do. They know how to get clicks and eyeballs on pieces, by the cultural critics that they continue to allow to write for them. So, congratulations to them, and congratulations to Morbius.
Congrats, Morbius! #1 film in the U.S. We always believed in you.
#1 film.
We never
in the
thought
world.
you were going to bomb. We never said who the hell is this for. We never said any of those things. We never just said the name Morbius over and over again. We never did impressions of David Letterman being played by Norm Macdonald going, you enjoy the Morbius, Paul?
Morbius.
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 And then Mark McKinney as Paul Schaefer goes, ha, yeah, Morbius. Morbius.
I wish Morbius would stop being ashamed of who he is.
I honestly think so,
a living vampire.
A living vampire.
A living vampire who...
Apparently that's very important to the lore, is that he is a living vampire.
He feeds off the blood.
There are regular dead vampires in the Marvel universe. Blade kills them, for example. But he is not. He is a living vampire.
Are there any dragons in Marvel?
Yes, there are. Felix, may I introduce you to a little dragon I like to call Fing Fang Foom?
That's a terrible name. A dragon would never be named that. That's so stupid. Dragons have two types of names. There are the kinds of dragons that are like raised or, sort of grow up around men, created dragons or younger dragons. They have names like, man killer. Just a stupid name a person would give them. Ancient dragons, the important kind, the real ones that exist, have names like Quasaloxix or Oblavik. It would never be called what this one is.
Fim Fam Foom.
Fim Fam
Foom.
Not a fucking dragon name. Maybe a serpent could be named that. Stupid.
Is he a Werven?
Yes, yeah. Maybe a wyvern would be named that.
No, he's sort of a more of an Eastern style dragon.
I know there are dragons in that Legend of Chun-Li movie or Shang-Chi.
Well, I don't know. I think that they don't really know what the fuck they don't know anything about dragons. They don't know them like I do.
Where do you stand on Smaug, Felix?
Smaug.
It's a good name. It's like an old name. That's a name that would be in like the Dragon Bible. It's like naming your son David.
It really is the AU that does it. If it was Smog, SMOG,
stupid,
lame, dork. That's a nerd ass dragon. That's like a tiny runt dragon that's like always falling behind and like when it tries to blow fire, it just gets a little smoke curl out of its nostrils. It has tiny little wings, smaller than the body, and he has to flap them really hard. But
that's
Smaug, that's a serious dragon.
What you just described, by the way, is basically like a minstrel show for dragons, and I hate seeing it. But I think so Morbius, everyone knows Morbius bit up the box office, right? Morbius drank the blood of the box office. The haters have been silenced. It's the summer of Morbius. It's the year of Morbius. But I mean, I think that means one thing. Americans are back in love with the supernatural. There was a scary time under Trump when, we were afraid to think about things like vampires and dragons. But now that he's gone and never coming back ever, we can think about these things. I think that the next thing, and maybe this could be a Marvel property, I would definitely like to help them with their childish conceptions of dragons. There should be a dragon sitcom where the only characters are dragons.
Sort of like dinosaurs.
Exactly like dinosaurs. But I think like to answer questions we all have about like how dragons get their name, dragon hierarchies, what do dragons do day to day? And, what's day-to-day life like when you're an eternal being?
And would this be like a sitcom in which the entire world is dragons, or is this like a dragon family moving into a suburban neighborhood and having to like fit in and make new friends and stuff?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Boondocks for dragons.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's the name of the show, the Boondocks for dragons.
All right. Another $1 billion idea minted here on Chapo Trap House. Copyright protected. All right. Would you guys mind if I plug the show I'm doing with Jacques and Pot About List at Littlefield?
Oh, go right ahead.
Quick plug. I will be a guest at Jacques from Seeking Derangements, the Podcast Dream live show coming to Littlefield in Brooklyn on April 15th, featuring myself, Pot About List, and Amber Frost will be attending as well. And there'll be DJ sets, there'll be podcasts, there'll be myself. Doors at 7 p.m., April 15th, Littlefield. Check it out.
I just DM'd Jacques because I realized I thought I wasn't going to be there then to see if I can also do it. So
okay, so Felix will be a pending guest. Felix.
Yeah, and if I'm not there, I'll be outside protesting. So one way or the other, I'll be in the area.
I will be in the audience until I have to dip out early to go to a Fatboy Slim concert.
Ooh.
All right.
I have to praise you, Chris, for leaving my show early.
Continuing the plugs, I had a great conversation with Zachary Siegel, a friend of mine who's done amazing journalistic work about the opiate crisis, the tainted drug supply in America, and the minefield of policy, including the much-hated opiate whack-a-mole game that the federal government plays. That is over on Patreon, where we will have also links to Zach's work and his new Substack project.
All right, be on the lookout for both of those things. That does it for us today. Till next time, gentlemen.
Bye-bye.
Bye.